Welcome to another episode of We Don't Die. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the international best-selling book called We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. If you've listened to this show long enough, you'll realize there are three underlying foundations that come through in most of the interviews. We talk about evidence of the afterlife, there's support for those grieving, and tools for you to live a powerful life. And it is my promise to give you every good person or every good thing that I discover to help you in your journey. So today's show falls right along in that category. Our guest today is someone you should definitely know about if you don't know of him already. Kevin Moore is host of the famous online talk show called The Moore Show. He interviews the world's greatest philosophers, paranormal researchers, life coaches, and spiritual teachers. He is passionate about using media to awaken people to live their most empowered present moment. In fact, Kevin is currently working on a documentary film called They Call Us Channelers, as in January 2015, he opened up to his own intuitive abilities and started to channel multi-dimensional information. You can find out more about this upcoming film at theycalluschannelers.com and be inspired by hundreds and hundreds of great episodes of his show by visiting themooreshow.co.uk. So I'm happy to say, Kevin Moore, welcome to We Don't Die Radio.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me on your show. It's such an honor to be with you. And I love that, what you said there as well about the intro to my show there. I really do appreciate that, because you don't realize sometimes what an impact you have on people when you're just doing this as your daily grind. Do you know what I mean?
I sure do. I sure do. In fact, I recently started a Facebook group for listeners. And if anybody's interested, just type in We Don't Die Listeners. And Kevin, in just a few, maybe it's not even a month's time, I don't think, there's over 2,000 people and people that write in about the impact the show has had in their life. And it's something I can't take for granted. I mean, it's definitely those words that you and I put out there with our amazing guests really impact lives, thousands.
I think it's great what you're doing. I think I've come across your show a number of times, way before you contacted me, and I thought it was pretty neat that you were focusing on the sort of near-death experience side of the phenomena. I forget the words out, and I just thought, that is an easy way for people to be able to get into these subjects, and it's a more ground level basis, isn't it, where everyone can sort of find something in there to wake them up from the sense of people who have had a near-death experience. I think it's quite tangible, and I just think it's great what you're doing. So thank you for what you're doing.
You're welcome. And it's actually not just near-death experience. It's anybody who's got a good story of why they believe in the afterlife. So we've had people talking about reincarnation. People have talked mediums, psychics, and just recently talking about trance and channeling. So I think talking to you is perfect in so many ways. So Kevin, tell us a little bit about your story. How did you even get involved in being interested in personal transformation and giving it away to people and all that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think I'd have to go back to 2007 when I had a normalish job back then. It was a sort of 9-to-5 job. I was working for myself. I had a software company, and it was back then when I was listening to a lot of Art Bell shows, a lot of coast to coast shows.
Yes.
And I don't know why I got into those shows or what triggered me, but it was from there where I was going back and forth to the States quite a bit with business, and I ended up getting a future life regression, past life regression. And I think that started to open the floodgates. And it was around that time as well when it was the 2008 crash. And, business was just slowing down. The business that I was in was, on its last last feet. And I just said to myself, what am I going to do with myself? When this business collapses, which it will do, I've never given myself any sort of solid foundations for any, training or to be able to go into another job. And I thought, well, what would I love to do with myself? What would it, if I could choose anything, what would that be? And I had this crazy idea about, doing the next kind of coast to coast type of show and, being heavily inspired, like I said. And I decided to reinvent my life, go back to university, not to go to university, and commit myself to a 3-year degree course in radio, which ended up to be a television course in the end because I swapped to my final year. But it was, now thinking about it in this conversation, it was when I had lost everything at the same time. I'd gone through one of those periods in life where, I'd lost girlfriend, the company that I had was dying on its feet, just everything in my life was transforming. And I think it was when I just hit 30 as well. There's something about hitting 30 where it's a pinnacle time in your life, whether you're having kids, whether you're getting married, something crazy always seems to happen around the early 30s, and it did for me.
It's interesting you said lost everything, because I have found by interviewing so many people, even with my own experience, that it took me, I don't want to say hitting rock bottom, but pretty darn close and losing everything to have my own personal transformation to bring me where I am. And I think hearing that from you, and also knowing there's a lot of listeners who are now at that point, who have lost someone they love or several people or something in their life, just to be open to the fact that losing everything or losing a lot can actually crack you open to have a huge awakening and a huge transformation.
It really did. I mean, just memories are just coming back now of being at uni for those 3 years. And it was a lot of work, do you know what I mean? It was pretty intensive, especially going there as a mature student. That was difficult in some respects as well. But then again, it was the best time as well with the friends that I made there. But I grinded my ass off. When I wasn't, putting any time into studies, I was working on my show. I'd be there at the university to late at night doing interviews. I was getting myself on multiple FM stations. I was getting syndicated at the time. Well, not syndicated as you do in America, but, it was a different kind of syndication of radio over here. And, I was just grinding so hard. I was obviously had a life as well. And, I think I had to go through a lot where, a lot of my classmates just thought it was pretty weird what I was doing with this type of show. But secretively, a lot of them were listening and finding it interesting.
Right.
And I think back then I was more heavily consumed into conspiracy theories as well, and kind of, that was a sort of introduction to the spiritual side a bit more. But even, I'm going to be all over the place here. Even thinking about as a kid, I remember my father used to have, Edgar Cayce books, and I always used to have a tiny interest in them by just, picking them up and touching them. But I always used to, I didn't like them. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't my thing back then, but there was something there. So, some crazy experiences growing up, a UFO experience that kind of shifted my reality a bit. That's why I got the future life, past life regression in America when I did have it in the end.
What was your UFO experience?
Well, it was kind of weird, as they all are, right?
Right.
When you see something and you really physically see it with your own eyes, and you can't exchange that thought which you've seen in your head to anyone else. You can never get that thought out and print it out or show anyone because there's no video footage of it. When you've seen something that changes your paradigm, it's, there's no conversations with the family. We all saw it together as a family. There's no comprehension between us or what it was. None of us want to talk about it. It's almost like, it was made to be, contained. But what it was quickly was, I remember as a kid, seeing this disc-shaped craft out of my side window. And then, my family gathered out the side window. We all saw it. This is, in bits and pieces here, because obviously time-wise we haven't got a lot of time. Then I remember going outside at the front of my house. There was no time, in the sense everything was paused. There was not even any birds, and there was this craft. Then there was a recollection of later on, being outside the house and seeing all these crazy orbs everywhere. And then there was the most incredible sighting which I had, which was later on that evening, when this massive cigar shape just went straight past, and we all saw it. Now, when I went into a regression, it was a totally different thing. I was on board the craft. These beings had come from, that were from the Pleiades, and they, that I was being monitored and I was going to be watched. That was of great interest to where I was going to go. But having a regression, you feel like you're making it up. Anyone will tell you that, right?
Right.
And it's not something I hinged on. It was just an experience I had. What it means, I could get into it, but does it really? I think just to have the experience and to know that I had it was the incredible part. But I'm not here to convince anyone. I don't know what it was.
It's interesting you say that. I don't talk about UFOs and that sort of thing on this show. It's predominantly life after death and living an empowered life. But my dad was an airline pilot for American Airlines, and was for 30 plus years. And I'll never forget, as a kid, he had come home and told us a story that he and the co-captain, co-pilot, and the engineer, all three were in the cockpit traveling, I think, overseas. And
Yeah.
he said that this ship, so to speak, with just tons of light, just hovered right close to their cockpit. They all saw it, and it was just there for a few seconds, didn't show up on the radar screen, and then off it went. And he had come home and telling the story, and Dad didn't believe in, at that time, he wouldn't be so keen on me having a life after death show. He was,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
engineering mind. But when he said that, and I trust my dad, he said, it really opened him up to there's more to life than meets the eye. So we talk about some things that might sound crazy, like channeling and physical mediumship and these wild things, but, why not, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, what is the UFO phenomena? Even I'm confused by it nowadays because, is it something that we can't even haven't even comprehend? Is our comprehension on it almost like a grain of sand on an infinitive beach? Is it not what we think it is? I mean, if we live in a holographic universe, or if we live in a reality that's simulated in a sense, and this is just some dream in a way, maybe, right?
Right.
Is that some form of of the dream of little sparks just to help us awaken on the spiritual side? Is it not what it really is? I don't know. And I don't blame you for sort of, just concentrating on the one side that you have as well, because I think what you do by doing that as well is you do keep it very grounded. And I think that's one thing that your show does. It keeps the subject grounded. And I think, that's what we're all looking for right now in some respects. But then, there's the others, like for my show, that, we do like to dive deep sometimes. But there is a balance. You've got to do what feels right, haven't you, in these types of shows? And like I said, I started with conspiracy, and it's kind of gone away from that now into the more spiritual side. Because, with conspiracy, my thing was always there's never an answer. There's never a solution. It's always they're to blame, or I'm right. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's not the energy that I like to be surrounded by nowadays. And if people are into those conspiracies, that's fantastic. But, if you enjoy that collective group, go for it. That's all I say.
Yeah, there's people that are interested in everything.
Of course.
We find what we're passionate about, and there's plenty of people that listen. And I love going to your website, themooreshow.co.uk, and seeing, I don't know how many episodes you have, but so many of them are titled things that will help me have an empowered life today. Because it's great to have a belief in so many things, but, how do we live our life? I think that, I think personally, there comes a point where we all close our eyes for the last time here on planet Earth, and we look back, did my life matter? Did I make a difference? Did I do things? Do we have any regrets? And I tell you, I want to close my eyes that last time saying, there could have been some things I did different, could have done differently, but for the most part, I played full out and I got my money's worth out of life. And I think your show, with the conversations that you have with people, really promote personal transformation, people going after their dreams, people realizing who they are, being human, and helping people, like you say, living in the present moment and making the most of it.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not going to say the journey has been easy, right?
No.
Because I've made this my full-time job, and especially in turbulent times with the changes on YouTube and everything else, it's been very, very difficult. And there is no easy ticket, and I've had to accept a life of I've actually become a minimalist in a sense, but I've had to accept that to do this work just right now, I've just got to go with the flow, and there's not a lot of no, there's lots of options out there, right? There's lots of abundance. There's lots of things that are there that are coming. But yeah, I just want to say that if you get one idea from the outside, I try to be as honest as I can in the shows. To if I'm having a hard time, I'll try to show that in the interview, or just at least bring myself as a participant into the interview. I think that's one thing that, doing a radio course or a TV course as well at uni, you're the host, and your opinion doesn't matter, the normal kind of journalist way. And I broke out of that pattern pretty much whilst at university. And I remember my lecturers didn't really like it. Actually, they're like, "You're not a journalist, are you?" I was like, "No, I'm no way going to be." I think we live in a new paradigm where it's important that the host does share their truth and their journey. And if some people don't like it, as the comments do show sometimes, well, the show's not for them.
No, I agree. And I know, as a marker, if I hang up with you at the end of this hour and I feel empowered and happy and have gotten some new tools for my life, I know others have as well. So I think it's perfect wherever we go. I really do. So can we talk a little bit about some of your guests that have shared about life after death or a near-death experience? Do you have any favorite shows or thoughts about that?
Favorite shows for sharing that? Well, one I just did recently, where we were, the 11th dimensional beings were giving their opinion on the nature of reality. That was shifting for me. I mean, I had been thinking this way previously, and when that interview came into my vortex, it was incredible in the sense that we've already crossed over. Now, this is crazy stuff in one sense, right? But this was the basis of the interviews, and I'm kind of leaning more towards this, that we may have lived this life multiple times. That this particular life, as a Groundhog Life, as a Groundhog Day, the movie, it's very possible that we've all done this before. Maybe in different versions. Maybe there's multiple dimensions out there playing different versions of the same. Of this life, so it's something's different. You know what I mean? Whatever it may be, different enough for that life to be impactful, to be going back to the Godhead in a sense where it's meaningful back to it. But yeah, the idea that we live in multiple lives, multiple realities, and that we've already crossed over, we've already died, and we've come back here to maybe help awaken people that are on this karmic wheel where souls get to choose their life contracts. So, for example, I'll be the victim, you can be the murderer, for example, or I'll be famous, and I'll meet you on my path somewhere, you can help us on that path, whatever the contract is, right? I mean, they're pretty lame ideas, but just whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. And what if some souls have just got trapped into those karmic contracts and keep coming back and back and back and back and back to repeat them, because they're allowed to come back with free will. There is nothing above you when you cross over that says, right, there you go, there's the book, that's the book, that this is the truth you were looking for, and all those other books you've read I just read. I think you take your truth with you when you cross over, and I think when you cross over, you're allowed to come back and do whatever it is you want to do. If you want to have a contract with someone or stay in the same soul group, go for it. Just go for it. No one's telling you what to do. That's my truth. And I think, well, what if, we've done this all before, and what if there are a lot of people out there, the majority of the planet, that are playing out these roles really well, and there's great content, and there's great benefit for everyone with these soul contracts. I'm not saying those soul contracts are a mistake. What I'm saying is, because we have free will to come back, we are repeating and repeating. So people like myself and yourself, who have already crossed over and have decided to come back into this timeline or into this reality, knowing full well of the greater version of reality, are trying to help awaken people, not by forcing our truth down them, but by saying, you've got a window here. We've all got windows in our life where when particular times we can awaken. So my window is through using media. If you come across my media in one of your windows, that's a chance for you, with your own empowerment, to wake up if you choose to. But it doesn't do me any messiah complex for you to wake up. This is just enjoyable for me if you did, and if you don't, I'm still enjoying this reality, even though I've woken up in it. I
I
don't know.
love it. Yeah, why not? And even thinking what you just said, I find there's some things in my life that repeat themselves over and over and over and over again, different challenges. And I think we all have that. And if we can, and I do believe we come back and we choose to come back, but I don't want to come back with the same stuff. I
Well,
don't.
maybe it's a bit different. It's like when you've moved something sometimes, and almost not, you place something down, and it disappears, and you think, oh, that's just some spirit moving it. What if because we've shifted our attention on the reality that we're going towards, that we've gone into another dimension? When people talk about the new earth, what about there's an infinitive number of earths that we're all existing, so that we're always jumping from reality to reality to reality as we change our present moment. So what I'm saying is, we are in charge of this present moment. And when Seth said, which was a channeled material, that your power lies within the present moment, it really does. So if you're not happy with where you are right now, you can use your thoughts, because thoughts create reality. Seth said that as well, so do many other channeled material. And then by just changing your thoughts, you're then jumping into another dimension. But when you say that you don't want to come back here, well, I think, even though we've got a grain of sand understanding, me and you, on an infinitive beach of what the nature of reality is, right? We're not supposed to know. Any book out there, all the books combined, it's just people's truths, just as this is my truth right now. And I say,
Right.
don't take my truth. If it feels right, then go with it, right?
Yeah.
I'm just giving you a different perception. What if when you get over, it's like, oh my God, I just want to go back. Now I know what it really is about, or I have created an imagination of what it's really about. What if when you cross over, like the Matrix, you create your version of what it's like when you cross over? So when people say they've experienced a hell, they've created that reality, because you create your reality even more on that level, because it's just more instant. So you've created your reality of where you've crossed over to, nice, there's dad over there, mum over there, dad's built you a house and everything else. You're on the shore, and you're thinking, man, you know what? I want to go back. I want that destructive life. I want that. I want those karmic patterns back again. I want those addictive things. And also I want to go and help people. So that's one thing I always say to people is, remember, even though I do this show, I try to live this as well right now. We are here. We chose to have a human experience. Do not ignore that. As much talk as we talk about where we're going to go and the perception of reality and what it's all about, you still chose to be here. So, live this human life, go see that movie, go on that date, go out with your friends, have a good time, enjoy yourself. But also, obviously, if you've awakened, you want to go and help others as well. But, whatever you do in your job, even your daytime job that you've got, not just this show, your daytime job is of benefit to other people. Everyone's of service to someone in some respects. I just don't think, with these type of shows, we should lose ourselves that all I want to do is talk about going home and everything else. That's why in my show, I try to bring in aspects of someone's work that it helps us in the moment now. That's what's important, because suicide isn't the answer. Being here, being fully awake and enjoying everything, it is one of the answers, and I think, trying to take on the world's problems and everything else, I don't, all we can do is improve ourselves. And by doing that, it ripples to everyone else.
Such good
Better
words.
answer.
Yeah, we have very complimentary shows, I think, for that. And I have this visual that heaven or the afterlife is this really great place with really great stuff and all our loved ones are there and it's all good all of the time. And that kind of thing, as great as it might be to go home, get refreshed, it can get pretty boring after a while. If we have all good all the time. And they say, Kevin, so many people that I've interviewed with near-death experiences, that there are just thousands and thousands of souls like waiting in line to come to Earth. And I love that visual because this is where the good stuff happens. This is where there's good and bad and growth and pain and love and all of it. This is where the
Yeah.
juicy place is. So to not
Well,
forget.
what if this was heaven? What if this is heaven? What if
Wow.
you've already crossed over? This is some aspect of heaven in some sort of holographic version. I mean, because we're trying. I mean, these are crazy ideas, to the normal person, right? But once you've interviewed, a few people, you start thinking outside the box, and it's like, well, everyone's telling me this. All the books say the same thing, but let's just go against that for a minute. Let's just think about something. Let's try to bring a new framework of reality in, and I think that's what I've been trying to do with my channeling, even though I don't practice it enough. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I like. And I know there's other channels out there that stay very grounded, and I totally respect that and have much love for them for that. It's just, we think of heaven somewhere else, but where are we right now? I mean,
Yeah,
this is pretty good, isn't it? What we've got right now.
it sure is. Before we get into your channeling, you had said earlier 11th dimensional beings. I'm like, what
Mm.
is that? Who are they? What do you
um,
mean?
Yeah, what I mean, yeah, what's these people? Well, that's I can't remember the guest name. I'm terrible with names. I'm
It's okay.
dyslexic. That's the only that was the one great thing I passed with flying colours at university was my dyslexic test. Um, so I knew I was dyslexic though. I always knew I was. But yeah, so names. But anyway, yeah, what are the 11th dimensional beings? They are they are a, well, they're a Palladian collective, from what I understand, and I don't channel them. This guest does, and I believe that they're interdimensional beings. So they're not incarnated into physical bodies. They're on some dimensional frequency, some dimensional level somewhere else, and it's of great benefit for them to come through when people are ready to listen and to give their teaching information. And some of the stuff I expressed there was some of their information as well. But I'm not. I'm going to say this that actually that was the way that I'm thinking as well. So yeah, people don't channel they channel all sorts of beings, whether it's interdimensional, well, most are interdimensional, but whether it's collective groups, ascended masters, you know, with the channeling, I suppose that these are just names, and I think if you really had a deep conversation with a channeler, they would say that actually it's all one. They are working with aspects of themselves, and they are in communication with these aspects that maybe before they've come down here, they've agreed to come through and to bring through information, and well, mainly teaching information.
How did you get involved with channeling?
I was based in Cardiff. I mean, I'll keep this story short. I was in Cardiff in the UK, and then I had put so much effort into trying to get a TV network up and running, a spiritual TV network, and it was at the time when I was, working so hard to try to make this happen, and my relationship was crumbling with my significant half. She was heading back to Malaysia because we decided to, to break up, and my finances were in the ruins in a sense because I put a lot of money into this project, and everything that could have happened to just crumble around me was crumbling, right? So, and I've heard this story from so many people. Everything was just crumbling, and it was when I'd lost everything that I had to go back to my old hometown, and I was living at my friend's house, and he was working away at sea. And I just remember being in this front room just thinking, what the hell had just happened over the past couple of years since leaving uni? And I was in a really dark place, and I was ill at the time, and I didn't really want to be here. I didn't really want to be here. And I remember just laying on the sofa, just really feeling crappy, right? That's an understatement. And then this voice came through, and I thought, okay, well, I'm absolutely losing it now. Do you know what I mean? This is it. This is the end. I'm now hearing a voice like Neil Donald Walsh would have heard, or others have said. And I thought, well, I'm making that voice up. That voice is, that's not my voice. But then there was something very different about the voice. Very, very different. And it told me its name was Edgar Casey. That at this time in this timeline right now, at this particular junction point where everything could perceivably I'd gone wrong, but of course it wasn't. It was all perfect, and that we had agreed to that this was our meeting point right now, that I could go with this voice or not, and it was up to me what I wanted to do, but that we were going to work together, and that I had to seek someone out that was going to help me bring this voice through. So lo and behold, my brother's wife's mother was just very close nearby where I was staying. Of course, my brother and his wife, they were out of town in another city. So I called her up, and she's a healer. Her name's Pauline. And I just explained what was happening. And she's like, that's fine. Come round. And we did. And the next minute we were holding hands. You know, this was a few days later, or maybe a few weeks. We're holding hands. And then I'm writing a book. And then this voice is coming through telling me that it's, you know, in this lifetime now, I've agreed that I'm going to bring channelers together from all over the world, that together we're stronger, and that the world's about to go through a significant change, one of its biggest changes, and that there's times of great change. That's what it was saying. And that there was a number of books to be brought through, and that we're starting the first book now. And I fought that process all the way to the bank, kicking and screaming.
Wow. Now, this voice, is it coming through you, only to you, that you're listening, or is it coming out of your mouth when you're
out of my mouth? Yeah, out of my mouth. So you know, it would talk, and then I would repeat. We tried a number of ways to bring it through. Actually, never creative writing, but it was all verbal. So you know, it was it kind of classed me as a multi-dimensional channeler. So there was a number of different aspects that came through, you know, from light beings to Dolores Cannon to Edgar Casey to my mum's mum, to a number of people that contributed to the 23 chapters of the book that I'm putting together.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and you know, I never got to release the book. The book's still not been released yet, and it all came to fruition that the book wasn't going to be released until I had done the documentary that I'm going to work on called "They Call Us Channelers," and you know, then the channelers that are going to be on that documentary are going to have their channelings transcribed, and then it'll be my 23 chapters in the book as well. So it's going to be my channelings mixed with everyone else's. And the documentary is all about, you know, that we can all channel, that we all have a higher self, that, you know, no matter if it's the intuition speaking or it's the gut feeling or whatever, you know, even the car mechanic's channeling, yeah, when he's trying to figure out what's wrong with the car. Yeah. Channeling is our natural process of what we do. But I do believe, and you know, there is a process where, you know, there are more channelers awakening right now, and you know, maybe channeling is the evolution of something that we're all going to be doing one day, you know, and it's going to move from having psychic abilities, because we're all a soul having a human experience. We are all psychic, and a lot of psychics do not like the term psychics, because, you know, we're all psychic, you know, but you know, but if you feel as a psychic that you're happy with that term, that's beautiful as well. I'm just saying, I see an evolution in what's happening out there, and I think there's more light workers, channelers that are going to come in and awaken to help the masses awaken in this dream. And I've probably skipped loads there as well. So
it's all about awakening, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we don't have to. You know, there's nothing more beautiful than someone that's not awakened, to equally comparable to someone that's awakened. I think when you do awaken, it is harder in some respects. People go through a lot of stuff. I think sometimes it would have been easier to be asleep, but no, I mean, there's great soul contracts going on between people who do not awaken. So there's great, you know, blessings in that. But yeah, that's a good question. Is it all about awakening? Is it better to awaken? I think at some point you've got no choice.
Yeah, especially if we do come back. Maybe in the beginning, you know, you hear the old souls, the new souls, you know, in the beginning, happy-go-lucky life, things happen, you're a victim of that. And when you do awaken, it's like you realize you're responsible for all of it. you're in the driver's seat of your life, and it can be more of a challenge. And it's easy to close off and forget this, but you having your show, me having my show, I'm constantly reminded that if my life is a way that I don't like it, the good news and bad news is, I've created it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to swallow that pill sometimes because when it's all when things aren't always flowing easy, it can be difficult to see it from that perspective. But I suppose it's about keeping it simple, isn't it? That if we create our reality, then we can create a new one. And sometimes some of these spiritual principles, you see all these videos online nowadays, and God bless everyone for doing it, because everyone's talking about their truth more. And you've got to look at some of these people that speak about their truth. They get massive views, they get a massive subscribership, because people like to see other people's journey. That is true. I mean, that was one thing that was one of my problems at one point, was that, I would always look at other people's subscribers and think, oh God, it's just, why can't I, make my living from YouTube like these people are doing? Why can't I do that? And you realize in the end that actually it's not about the numbers, and actually it's, you can't compare paths. Everyone's on a unique spiritual path. And sometimes when you do the higher stuff, then less souls will be attracted to that. Where if you did the simpler stuff, then that allows an opening to the mass of the market. And that's the same with channeling. When some channelers have a massive following, that's because they're dealing with lower level stuff. When some channelers have a less of a following, it's mainly to do with, I'm not talking about if you're just new into it, I'm talking about people that have been established for a while. It's mainly to do with that you're bringing high level stuff through. So, not everyone's ready for that. So you just got to do what really turns you on and what you love to do as well. And most times, if you're not happy with your reality and you go and change it to do something else, if you're meant to be doing something that your soul's coming in to do, you'll be pulled back into doing that for sure.
Amen to that. The last thing I thought I'd be doing was talking about life after death, grief, and living a powerful life. But no matter what I did, it just kept knocking at my door. Crazy. Really crazy. I thought of a great question, and now it escaped me. How about that? Let's get back to the present moment. You're channeling. Are you present and knowing what's coming through, or do you feel like your mind is elsewhere, and then you have to either record or somebody's listening to you to get what the information is? Is there a part of you that's paying attention to it?
Absolutely. Let me just say as well, just about the channeling and what it said. I'll come into that question definitely. Just very quickly, when I said earlier on about it told me I was going to bring people together, I just thought, what a load of nonsense, yeah. And I'm just making this all up, but I still went with it, kicking and screaming. If it wasn't for Pauline kind of making us do this, then I'm so glad she did. I'm so glad I saw it through. But fast forward 2 years later, I've just done a deal and acquired the domain name Channeling.com.
That's huge.
And and I had to hustle for that deal, in a sense where, I'm so grateful for the people that I've done the deal with, and there's a story to that, but that's another time. And when I got that domain, I realized, oh my God, it's come true without forcing it. This is going to bring channels together. That's what it's there for. And also, this is where the documentary is going to point towards. So if you do go to channeling.com, or they call us channelers.com, it points to the same place. So channeling.com, it's going to be, that's the abundance I was looking for, because I'm going to turn it into a reader's side as well, because I want to give people empowered soul channeled readings. So, there's always a business side to what you're going to do as well. I've had to embrace that, and I think having the old business that I had all those years back has led us to be, a bit business savvy with making this into a business, because we're having a human experience, and there's two sides to this, right? So because some people are like, oh no, I can't make any money out of spirituality. I'm like, well, that's your issue, that's not mine. I am going to, and I'm going to be of service doing it, yeah? Because the money is kind of the higher end thing for me. The first thing is obviously the customer service, right? And providing a good thing for people. But I'm just, what my point is to people, that if you're in this field or thinking of getting into it and you want to make it your full-time job, something always comes along to help you out. Life will help you out. Life only says yes, and if you're shoving out no, then it says yes to no.
Right.
Look at the university. It gives criminals money, and that money is available for you as well. It's all in the vortex, as Esther Hicks says. So yeah, I just want to put that in there, that I'm going to do good with this site. And I think, one of my things I definitely want to do is having channeled events throughout the world. I see myself on a stage with other channelers. I see that's where the work's going to evolve to, because that's where the energy is. That's what I really want to do, and having that top tier domain name will allow me to do that. So going back, I hope that's inspirational to some people.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Going back to your question as well. Yeah, I'm always jealous of the channelers who can leave their body, disappear, and not be there, right? And be absolutely, when they come back, what did I say? What was that? Where for myself, it's been more of the case that I am in the driver's seat, that I'm, very much consciously channeling. Now, other people will say, Kevin, you're only channeling your higher self. And I'll say, well, if that's my higher self, it's a beautiful aspect of me. And thank God I'm bringing it through. And you should be doing the same as well. And give yourself that chance of bringing your higher self through. Because I tell you what, it only knows best. But yeah, I do remember most of it. Most of it I do. Sometimes it's a little bit blurry, but not blurry, but just you've said so much and you're yabbing on, much more intelligently than I'm speaking now in some respects, right? And the way I do it is I shut my eyes and I walk through a door, and as soon as I've walked through that door, that's it. Then the voice starts, and then I start repeating, and then the voice comes into sync with the repeating. That's just my way of doing it. There are an infinitive number of ways to do it, but you've got to almost strip your ego quite a bit, because doing this, it does tend to do that to you, because you're doing something which is on the fringe of spirituality and is also kind of scary to some people.
Oh, I would think so. I mean, this, for a first-time listener, they might be listening right now like, what the heck are these people talking about?
Yeah. Well, it's the new way of communicating. Well, it's not the new, but it's a way that's coming back in, I think, of, by opening yourself and letting spirit talk directly. This is almost like, I don't know, I just feel that this paradigm is coming more and more in. And as I've been working on this documentary, Channeling.com, or they call us channels, it's called, that, oh my God, the amount of channelers out there. Wow, I had no idea.
Well, just going to your website, you have pictures of all the people that are going to be part of this. I'm thinking, I've never heard of these people. And it's great to be able to bring them together all under one roof and share. And what's even more important is the words of inspiration that come through. Because, okay, great to channel, but what is being said that is so impactful that is in this movie, or will be in the movie?
Well, will be in the movie. Well, it's going to be. Well, look, this movie was inspired by the original documentary called Tuning In. Tuning In was a 2008 movie made by Matthew Klink and David Thomas, and I'm sure David's going to do another documentary one day. But I watched that movie just prior to channeling when I was living in Cardiff, and I just. Or maybe it was a little bit before then. But when I was watching it, I was like, I kind of resonate with that a little bit. So that movie helped me to be inspired to make this. But anyway, long story short, I was in Amsterdam, and I decided I was going to do a documentary, and I wanted to do a channeling documentary. And so what it's going to be, I'm going to make a new style called a vlogumentary, where nowadays with equipment, it's just so much easier to make movies, and you don't need a massive budget. That's one thing I didn't want to do, right, was to have a massive budget to put off making this movie. So I'm saying we're going to do a crowdfunding campaign on the 1st of September to raise between 50 to 20,000. I think we're going to go for 20,000, because it does take some money to make a movie, and there is some equipment cost and traveling costs. So we'll be going to Australia, the UK, which I'm filming the UK now as we speak, and America. And Yeah, so it's my journey with a camera and of course my producer Marcella to be vlogging it, and obviously when we do the documentary, then there's a two cameras set up where we're filming them professionally, and a lot of people say, well, blow me away with information. And the thing is, as my channeling's always said, well, you never listened in the first place. So that's why we keep coming through with the same information. Because even the spiritual people, you'll come, you'll listen, it all sounds good, feels amazing. And then you go back home, or not spiritual people, we're all spiritual, but people that are on an awakening path. And then it's kind of like, it's not, they're not finding their own truth and trying to just embrace some aspects of it. Now, a lot of the channeling says, don't take our truth, come up with your own. But if this is a way into your own truth, this information, that's a great place to start, right? So some of it's information really like, the nature of reality, the times that we live in now, that's an important one, that we can all channel, that we all have this ability. I want to get into some deeper stuff with this, like this idea of reality that I'm talking about with you earlier on in the interview, where we may already be home, we may already have crossed over. This is an aspect of something that's come back. I want to get into this stuff on the documentary to get a little bit deep with that, but also to have the basis where it's my journey as a channeler, as I'm still on my journey, finding my truth. So I want it to be relatable and for some level for people to get it if they're just watching it for the first time, this subject. But then I want to go deep as well. So I think there's going to be lots of mind-blowing stuff. But again, with a lot of channeling, it's the way I see it working is that, yes, different channels come in and say the same thing in a different way that's digestible to that person. So we are all on different frequencies and all vibrating differently. So some channelers will attract a certain person and they won't be attracted to other teachings, where others are attracted to other people. So it's a massive world, and there's not one size fits all. So sometimes as well, people are attracted to a channeler because that's the same soul level that they're at. And when I say soul level, one idea that came to me of understanding that is, imagine a skyscraper, and each floor is just as powerful and the same space as the other, obviously, right? But there's different levels. So as you go up levels, there's maybe a higher framework of information, right? But they're all equal in a way. The floors are equal. They're all as nice as inside, all as tidy, right? And so you come from a different floor level, so that channeler will come from maybe the same floor level, and then you're meeting up, and that channeler is reminding you of your understanding of reality, and that you're a soul having a human body, just for reminding you of why you came here.
I love it. I know when I had attended Arthur Findlay College back in May and took the course, I think some people call channeling, some people call trance, whatever. But I know through my mouth came a voice that was my voice, but it didn't have any of the hesitations. It wasn't thinking about what to say. It was almost poetic, and it was about living life, and it was about fear, and it was about our journeys. And, I did it several times, and also writing bits of philosophy, channeling philosophy is what I call it. I'll just ask if there's some words that want to come through that will make a difference for myself and for others. And Kevin, like magic, words just come to my brain, and I type them just as I hear them. And I'm so clear this isn't coming from me. But to know and to be, I'm so excited about your project, your film, that we are all connected to beings, whoever you want to call them, that are here by our side, that we can allow to blend with us, to be able to remember who we are, to inspire us, to inspire others. I think this is so cool. I mean, I want to know more. I would watch the film right now if I could.
Well, let me just say, don't give your power away. You're saying, it's something else came through. Maybe it was you that was coming through. That's how powerful you are. That's one thing I want the documentary to say as well. Don't give your power away, thinking that, I'm not as powerful and there's something else is coming through. Yeah. Remember, a lot of these channelers say that it's very possible, and I've spoke to most of them, right? Not most of them, but a lot of the big ones, that it's me coming through, a higher version of me coming through. It's me. So and everyone's got a different truth on this, right, as well. So you'll meet some people who will say, nonsense, just the higher self coming through. They're in denial of who they are and their power. again, that's their truth. That's fine. We must respect each other's truths, because for me to say, well, that's what she's bringing through and that's what no, I don't need that messiah complex. No,
No, no.
go with what they feel is right. But there are others out there like it. And also remember as well that these people bring it through. They are just as crappy as we all are in one sense. They're all having a human experience. What I mean by crappy, there's that they mess up. We all mess up, don't we? We do things wrong. We get it wrong. There are no mistakes, just experiences. But my point is, don't see us as your idol, or as someone to look up upon. Some of the most spiritual people I've met and interviewed are the worst people, the worst, grumpiest pants you could meet. Right?
That's funny. Yeah. So, Kevin, there's a great quote that says, "This lifetime is but a thread in the fabric of your soul." And so I got this image of channeling being the whole fabric speaking. That's,
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. And so, yeah, what if, that what's come through me is the fabric. It's
Of course it is.
all of it that's been there.
That's how powerful that you are, and that's how powerful everyone
Wow.
else is. That's how it all works. And you can make up your own truth. You can make up your truth about what reality is. I mean, yes, there might be some fundamental truths, like maybe love is the only answer. That seems to be coming through everyone, right? But maybe the fabric allows you to create your own truth, and what feels good for you,
Yeah.
as long as it's being loving towards yourself and other people.
Right. Love, service, those are some big time truths. And I know that I encourage, much like you, it's great to listen to these interviews. Don't take anything as the truth. Look for your truth. And there's been so many people have fought me on my beliefs. And it's like, well, that's fine because,
Yeah.
but I've come to the point where I've got to empower myself, Sandra Champlain, in this lifetime for as long as I'm here. And what resonates with me? It resonates with me to be responsible for all of it. It resonates with me to love, to share with others. Also feels very good to do that. So, yeah, I think we are looking for the answer, and it may come as a hard pill to swallow that you got to look within yourself. But in doing so, it has been the most rewarding journey. And do I have it all figured out? No. Do I have a crappy life sometime? Yes. Can I be one of these grumpy, miserable people? Yes. But
Sorry.
it's okay,
Yeah.
because that links us all together. Kevin, our time is going fast. If you're looking at your clock, I'm like, wow, how did this hour go by so fast?
I know.
What else would you like to share that we haven't already? Or I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about your website and whatever that tuning in documentary is, because I know that's available to watch on your site.
Yes. So if you go, you can go to my site, and David Thomas has allowed me to, you know, put the channeling documentary that he made on there, so you can go to see Tuning In, and I'm sure he's going to make another Tuning In movie, and I hope he does, because the more of this content, the better. Just to say about the channelers that are coming onto this documentary as well. The reason that I went for people that you've never heard of before, because I thought that's really important for me, because that's to show that we all can do this. I've got one channeling lady coming on because I'm off to Singapore to film one out there. Yeah, she's a Malay Singaporean Muslim who now channels. Right.
Wow.
I've got African American people coming on, because this is just not a white thing, and I wanted to be careful of that. That no matter what we've incarnated in, skin color or whatever else, right? It's not about that. It's the soul. It's about that we are all equal, and we can all do this. And I've got people that channel nature, people that don't even label it. I've got the world's youngest channeler. Well, I say youngest. I mean, I'm sure there's someone younger than her that's doing it, but she is amazing. She's Courtney Anderson. She's going to be on this documentary as well.
How old is she?
21.
Okay.
21.
Yeah.
And she's doing some amazing work. I've got all the kind of big names. I mean, they wouldn't want me to say it like that, but the more established ones as well. Daryl Anker, Jeffrey Hoppy, Paul Selig, get the name wrong. Oh God, just it's all on there. I can't remember the names.
That's okay. That's okay.
And all these other ones as well that have been doing it for a long time. One that's a couple that speak to source, Elliot and Jackson. Diane Jackson. Again, a great couple doing some amazing work. They're all doing amazing work. It's difficult for me to pick them out, but I'm just giving you a selection there of just how varied it is. And I may even ask the question to some of them. Can we speak to someone? Well, probably won't do this, but it would be cool to kind of, to know that their guys that they're bringing through their groups recognize the other groups as well, in a sense. But yeah, again, based, on that tuning in movie, but this is going to be different, of course, because you can't just go and do the same thing, and it will be different because of the way I've described it's going to be. And again, as much as you can plan this stuff out, when you actually filming it, it's going to be very, very different. Do you know what I mean? That there's going to be unprepared things that are going to happen, and it's going to take you on to new directions as well.
Oh, it'll be a new life of its own. It'll create,
Yeah, I hope I'm answering the question there.
Sure you are. But we go to channeling.com is the easiest way to see.
Channeling.com, yeah.
Find out more, watch the tuning in video. And how about, let's talk about your show just one last time, because I'm all about empowering people to live a great life now. And if they go to themoreshow.co.uk, what can we find there to help us in our life?
Well, there's about, I don't know, about 700-ish videos there on all sorts of content, from ufology to law of attraction. Well, not as much laws of attraction as I'd like, but to there's a lot of spiritual content on there.
Yes.
There's a lot of spiritual content that helps you to just go a little bit deeper within yourself. I mean, and even if you just watch the first 10 minutes of one, that's whatever, it's what you're meant to be watching. It's you'll hear the bit that you need to hear. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult to say which ones to. I tell you one thing I am doing with the More Show is I've not said this anywhere else, but I'm about to start interviewing other YouTubers from a spiritual perspective. That's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and that's something of a new series on the More Show that I'm going to start. And one of the things for going to America as well is I do want to get my show onto a different. I love YouTube, and I'd always be on YouTube, but I think for my show, I'd like to, get on a bit of a maybe syndicated radio in the States or something in the States. I see myself on the More Show doing something in the States, and that's kind of why I'm looking forward to going over for many reasons.
Oh, fantastic. I support you any way I can, anyway. And it is, we're looking for our own truth, so I really recommend to anyone who's listening right now, go to themoreshow.co.uk, do what I did, and just scroll down hundreds of episodes and different things you have there, and just see what your soul says, hey, click on that, and what resonates. And, there is gold in every conversation. There might be things that, you're not aligned with, or that's fine. Listen for the gold in every conversation. Listen for what resonates with you, resonates with your truth, will help empower you today. And Kevin, just one more plug for the present moment. I think with your channeling and everything else you're up to, being in the present moment, does it allow access to just greater wisdom and a greater way of living life?
Yeah, I think any time that you're prepared to go within and listen to that inner voice, it only wants the best for you in the present moment. You could ask it any question and it would give you a loving response. And you can either listen and go with it, and if you don't want to, it's always going to be there. Even if you feel that you've taken the wrong road against what it said, it will always be there because it is you and it loves you, and it's just, it's life and you connected coming through one another. And I would just say, we're starting our Indiegogo campaign to make this movie from the 1st of September, but you can support it now as well by just going to channeling.com, or and then there's a documentary button. Just press the documentary button, or they call us channelers.com, and it will take you directly to our campaign page of what we've raised so far as well. So just thank you for letting me come on today. I so appreciate it.
Oh, love it. Love it. And for anyone listening right now, this present moment is all we've got. All is well, no matter what your past is, whatever your future you think is,
so true.
Everything stems from this present moment. So you can really take it And whether you believe it or not, if you were in the driver's seat of your life, how would
Mhm.
you like the rest of your day to go today and use it? So, Kevin Moore, thank you for being our guest today.
Sandra, just thank you so, so much for what you're doing as well. I will get you on my show, and just blessings to you for the light that you're spreading in the world. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It is certainly fun, and like I said earlier, these episodes are just as much for me as they are for everyone. But for everyone who's listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. Some people have listened to every single episode, and we're near 200 episodes now, quite a few. And as a reminder, all past episodes are available at WeDon'tDieRadio.com. Of course, you can listen on YouTube, iTunes, and every podcast platform that I have found. And also, if you do go to WeDon'tDieRadio.com, I invite you to click on what's called Join the Insiders Club. And I don't send you lots of emails, but what I do give you is a free read of my book, We Don't Die. And chapter 10 is about surviving grief. And a lot of people listening right now have experienced the loss of a loved one. And I want to give you everything I've got to help you through that pain. Also, in September 2017, coming up, I will be one of the guest speakers at the Afterlife Research and Education Symposium, where you can meet almost 30 speakers that are experts in the world of the afterlife and communications and so much more. That's in Scottsdale, Arizona, September 15th through 17th. And you can go to afterlifestudies.org to find out more and to register. So in closing, I want to say my name is Sandra Champlain. I have been your host today on We Don't Die Radio, and really delighted to have such a great conversation with Kevin Moore. I invite you to go check out his show, themoreshow.co.uk, and also find out more about this phenomenal film that he's creating. They Call Us Channelers. Go to theycalluschannelers.com, or simply channeling.com will take you there also. And I do believe with all my heart that life is an education for the soul, and that your life here on earth is important. So I really, really want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.